Heyo, how's it going? This video is going to be a little different than the videos I've been making since I've come back to this channel in the past couple weeks. If you've been enjoying those videos, don't worry, more of them will be coming soon as in later this week. Thursday, I'm definitely going to get a video up. Hopefully a second one on Friday, but definitely at least one video in that range. There's a new series I have in mind. I think I'm going to start those days. There's a couple series I have in mind, but one of them definitely is going to get started this week. I still want to make another Arcane video. I promised that a couple videos ago, and there's still a lot I have to say about it. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 recently again, and if you've ever played that game, you know it's very hard to play that and not be thinking about it all the time. But this one's going to be a little bit different. And because it's such a beautiful day outside, and I think it fits with the theme of the video, we're going to do this one outside. But before we do that, I want to show you guys some updates to the room. We hung up some new National Park posters I got at an antique store. Those are pretty cool. Those are fake, trust me. That one's fake too. This ball is a little bit of a teaser for what's going to come later in this channel, and this banner is the last new thing. I'm a big Dodger fan, clearly, but I got this at an arcade for about 800 tickets, so I thought it was going to be way smaller, but turns out no, it's almost the size of a door. So yeah, that's the new room, and let's go outside. My backyard's amazing. I've got a great pool, a bunch of plants, there's a cool fountain over there, there's a gate to a trail that, believe me, you will see soon, but because of the lighting and the sun's about to start going down, we're going to set up right about here for this video. 2020 is a lot, and I'm sure you already know exactly what I mean. But it was a lot of bad. Some people say it was good for society. Many people argue it was awful, and I mostly agree with that. But the one thing that you cannot argue about 2020 is that it was a major change. It was a massive turning point in your life. It doesn't matter who you are. It was. That's true, almost universally. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that and how it went for me personally in 2020, because I know there was so much hardship. So many people got sick. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people lost family members. It's incredibly unfortunate, and I don't want this video to undermine that at all. I don't want this to undermine anybody's struggles or anything, whether it's mental health, physical health, family health, anything like that. But for me, 2020 is much more of a symbol or a sign than an actual moment in time, if that makes sense. It just felt so surreal, the whole thing. For a little bit of context, I graduated high school in 2020. So the last 3 months of my high school life was online and during the pandemic. And with that, the first year plus of my college life was online during the pandemic. And how my school worked, which we weren't supposed to know this, but our French teacher that I've brought up a couple times on this channel way back when accidentally told us that the school wasn't allowed to drop your grade as long as you turned in one online assignment. Only one per class. So once I found that out, I just made sure I did one assignment for each class after the month of March, and then I didn't do any other schoolwork for the last quarter of my senior year. And that resulted in a lot more free time, obviously, but what did I have to do with that free time? I was mostly out here listening to the Assassin's Creed Black Flag Sea Shanty playlist, doing push-ups and swimming in the pool, right? It's such a pivotal moment in not only the world, but in each and every person's personal life and their own journey, because they are left to themselves. You have nothing to do, right? The most I could do is walk down to the park and play basketball, probably by myself, because no one else wanted to come outside, and rightfully so. Or if I did meet up with my friends, we would do something outside. We all have masks on, and we'd all stay far enough away from each other, not shake hands, not dap up, none of that. And eventually things got back to normal. I went back to swim practice in around July or August of 2020. Very safe, precautions, all kind of stuff. But, I started college on the first day of October 2020. So it wasn't much time of back to relative normal before that, and it wasn't even close to normal, let's be honest. I'm not entirely sure what the thesis of this video is. It's going to be a little bit more of that like video journal rambling type thing. And again, if you don't like that, that's perfectly fine. There's going to be back to normal scheduled content recently, but I feel like every once in a while I need to do something like this. Every once in a while I need to get out here and just say stuff that I'm feeling. And I have been feeling very nostalgic recently. I'm generally a nostalgic person. I like to talk about the past quite a lot. But recently it's been even more so. And it's been even more so surrounding 2020. The sun's coming back out. Winter's starting to melt away and spring's coming out, right? It's going to be 80 degrees later this week. That's not super hot for where I live. It gets up to 115 for about a week every summer, so that's nothing, but I can wear t-shirts outside again, right? I don't have to bundle up with a hoodie or a long sleeve shirt. And that's like the feeling of the COVID summer, right? I was in this backyard just sitting in the sunshine for months, and that's all I could do. I got into new shows. I ate new foods. I learned to cook better. I got in better shape than I was before, obviously, but it really was just like you become the epitome of who you are when you're isolated like that. You're not allowed to talk to other people. You're not allowed to go do stuff with other people. The outside influence both on you and from you onto other people is minimalized, right? Obviously, Discord still existed, Skype still existed, barely, but it did. So you were still able to interact with your friends. I did, but you know what I mean. It's much less of an impact that you have on the world and the world has on you because you're just not able to participate. Nobody is, right? And what that kind of became for me was just like peace. Almost. I was very lucky. I didn't have any family members get seriously sick. I had older family members who caught it, but they got over it relatively easily, and I'm still thankful for that. But really what it was like peace and freedom in an era that was supposed to be somewhat hectic for me, right? Because I graduated high school in June. I was supposed to go to college and move off to college in October, which means I would have to move in September, which means I got half of June, all of July and August, and then part of September. So roughly 3 months of no high school, but then moving to college. But what it turned into, because of that assignment rule, and then the online school for COVID in the first quarter of my college career, they didn't really know how to do online school all that well, so it was still pretty easy. What it ended up being was, from mid-March to late September, I had nothing to do. Total free time for count 'em, half of March, April, May, June, July, August, and all of September. That's half a year of just nothing to do at all. So yeah, it led me to explore new things. It led me to become who I was immediately after that. It was a changing point. It changed who I was naturally. But towards the end, I started to kind of realize what was happening. And I'm not about to dive into some whole conspiracy bullshit, so don't worry. Just hear me out, if you will. The moment I realized it was, as I said, I went back to swim practice, and that's when I had my driver's license. So I was driving to swim practice by myself and driving home. Swim practice ended at 7. Around here in the summer, sun sets at about 7:30 or 8. Mostly 8. So I'd get out of the pool at 7, change, maybe get some food, and I'd be home or be parking right around the time that sunset was happening. And the street that I parked on, because both my parents had cars at the time, so there was no room in the driveway, I parked on a side street. And the side street pointed right back there, where the sun sets every night. And the sunsets here in the summer are beautiful. But I never really noticed that until then. What I would do is, I'd park, I'd get out of my car, and I'd just sit on the roof of my car and watch the sunset. I did this for weeks after swim practice, and I don't know why I did it. I'd never done that before. That wasn't a thing that I enjoyed, was seeing the sunset. That wasn't a thing I looked forward to every day. But I did it. And in hindsight, it was almost like an instinct, I think. An instinct of, I know that things are about to change drastically. So I need to enjoy what I can while I can. And for outside context of that era of my life, early 2020 wasn't the best of time for me. Obviously, it was the home stretch of my senior year, so I was enjoying that. But everywhere you turned, someone was talking to you about college or talking to you about the future. As many of my close friends know, I hated that shit. I didn't want to be around that conversation, much less have it, but you had to at that point. There was some girl stuff that didn't go great years ago, so I'm not banged up about that anymore, but at the time, it's not the best feeling. And then you go into summer, and I've been swimming for 10 years at that point, and I realized, like, oh shit, my college isn't going to have a swim team my freshman year, so I'm done. And I didn't love swimming at the time, but it's just something I had done almost my whole life, and I couldn't do it anymore. It was over. High school was over. Swimming was over. Like, that's the stuff that occupied 90% of my waking hours of my life up to that point. Whether that's healthy or not, that was the facts, and they were both gone, just like that. Months earlier than I hoped they would. And that made me realize that summer of those things got taken from me quickly. Much quicker than I thought. I thought I would have time to come to terms, I guess is the word, with losing them, but just like that, all of a sudden, no more. Not only no more, but you got nothing to do. Sit around, play video games, watch shows, eat donut holes, and do push-ups by the pool when it's 90 degrees outside. And don't get me wrong, for an 18-year-old who just wanted to enjoy life for a little bit, that was great for a while. But then you get used to it, and then some stuff rolls around. You have to start online school again. And in a year, you have to decide whether you want to continue online school or you want to move out to college. A year after that, you have to actually move out to college. And you're not the only one of your friend group that moves out. Your friends are living other places, going to school hours and hours away. And everything's different. But for those few months in the middle of 2020, it was slow. And that's how time and perception works, right? The less you have to do, the slower time seems like it moves. But the more you occupy yourself, the quicker it seems like it moves. So, in a strange way, that time has become nostalgic. And it's not entirely surprising. It's half a decade ago now. It's been 5 years, which is crazy to say, but it's late March now. 5 years ago today, I was on spring break, and that was the spring break that would never end, It's been over 5 years since I've stepped foot on that campus that I wanted to be on so much at the time. It's been over 5 years since I was in a competitive swim meet, which occupied most of my weekends for most of my life. The post-COVID era is now longer than the COVID era. It's so long ago. But that feeling still kind of sits in me. And I know it's not the healthiest thing. And I'm trying to reckon with that. I'm trying to, find it is the best way I can put it. But I know that I probably can't. There's never going to be a time in my life again that I'm going to just be totally at peace with no responsibilities and no expectations for 6 months. And if there is, that means something either in my life directly or in the world has gone drastically wrong, so I shouldn't even wish for that. I'm totally rambling. I've lost the point of this video. I get that now, but I wanted to get this out and just say, that time of peace and that time of nothing created this feeling of almost joyous boredom. Yeah, you were bored because you had nothing to do. But at the same time, when you're 5 years older and you're either looking for a job or you're working your job or you're finishing up school, there are going to be moments in your life where you just sit back and take a deep breath and wish that you had that time again. I do. I'm more nostalgic than most, I understand that, but that time period is incredibly unique. They said it was completely unprecedented for a reason. It was, and there's no argument against that. And it changes you. It changed me. I know it did. I'm a much, much different person now. Obviously now, but I was a much different person in 2022 than I was in 2019. And the biggest changing point of not only that in-between era, but of my life as a whole, was the summer of 2020. People talk about the greatest summers of all time. 2016 is the one you hear the most. 2018 is the one that everyone says is underrated. And don't get me wrong, I've got plenty of stories about the summer of 2016. Maybe I'll tell those one day. But 2020, even years are eventful. People say that sometimes for a reason. And even though this one wasn't eventful in the traditional way, not on a person-to-person basis, on a world basis, it was very eventful. And Yeah. I mean, it brings you down to who you really were at the time. And it makes you change. Because you weren't built for that. No one was built. I don't care how much of a recluse or an introvert you say you were. Nobody is built to just stay at home almost entirely for 6.5 straight months, if not longer than that, because most people did it longer than that. I was considered relatively lucky at the time that I had something to do in September and October. People aren't built for that, I don't think. So it not only shows you who you are, it was like a mirror. That's so corny to say, I know. It's like TikTok philosophy 101 is like, isolation is like a mirror. But they have a point, you know. Being to your own and just with your family, if you were able to be with your family, and just being left to your own devices for that long, it shows you who you are. And it gives you a preview of who you can become. And in my case, I don't know. I guess it just showed me how much I wanted that break. Because entirely before that, and I'm not trying to complain, this is totally like a first world problem, all of my time was occupied by either school or sports. I didn't like take breaks from it that often, and when I did, it was only because I was hurt. So, you know, I never like really went to the movies with my friends all that much growing up, except unless it was in like the middle of summer. You know, I didn't go to that many of my friends' birthday parties. I was always relatively busy back then. So just having that break and being able to just take a breath for 6 months. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I'm gonna miss that. And I shouldn't. Because the world is better now. Well, the world should be better now than it was in 2020. We'll see if it actually is. But it's part of growing up, you know. Whenever life gets harder, you're going to miss the parts where it was easiest. And for me, when it was the easiest is when I knew my family was safe. I didn't have to worry about it. And I had no expectations for months, no responsibilities for months. I could just be who I wanted to be, do what I wanted to do. Like personal freedom, the most I had ever had up to that point. And maybe the most I'll ever have. You know, in a weird way. I'm not too sure what I want people to take away from this video. I'd love if you shared your experiences over 2020, good, bad, whatever it is. I think it's good to just get it out. I'll be honest. Share those in the comments. If you want to like or subscribe because of this, you can. But yeah, if you're going to take away anything from this video, don't take the moments that feel good for advantage. You know? If you're not in a rush, don't rush yourself. If there's a time that you find yourself enjoying, don't force it out because you think you need to be productive or you think you need to be going somewhere or doing something. It's alright to take a breath. You had to 5 years ago. Everyone did. And, you know, now, even if you're older, you got a job, you're in school or back to school, whatever it may be, you have to find those moments now. You have to do it yourself, and it sucks. But when you find them, you should enjoy them. That's what I think. You know, if you see a sunset and you don't have to go home right that instant or be anywhere else right that instant, watch it. Why not? You got to find these little moments of peace in your own life because you're not going to get a time again where the world forces you into it. That's my takeaway from it. I don't know how long I'll keep this video public for. This is a little bit more of a random shit that I wanted to say because I had time to make a video today. I wanted to get outside since it's a great day outside, but yeah, 2020 changed me, and I know it changed you too. But personally, it was the biggest turning point in my life. It showed me who I was at the time, and it gave me a preview of who I was going to become, whether I liked that or not, and I'm still figuring that part out. But here we are, you know. Everyone who's watching this video, unless you're 4 years old, which stop. Everyone made it through COVID to get here, and you should be proud of that. You should be hopefully proud of who you are because of it. If you're not, you should try to be, whether that's trying to accept yourself as who you are or trying to be someone you can be proud of. Bottom line is, I miss that. It's not the healthiest thing to miss the easy life, You know, it's not the most helpful or productive mindset to have, but sometimes I can't help it, and that's alright. I said this in my first video coming back, is you don't have to be okay with what everyone tells you to accept. You have to accept it, yeah, but you don't have to like it, you know? You don't have to like your responsibilities. You have to do them because you're responsible for them. But you don't have to enjoy every single second. You're allowed to want a break. You're allowed to miss the old times where you were happier. And I do. I'm not saying my life fucking sucks now. I'm, in a general sense, is pointing in the right direction. I still have an amazing group of friends. Still have a great family. Still have a lot of fun stuff to do. But sometimes you can't help it. Would I go back? Knowing what I know now, yeah. And that's hard to say, because there are people that I'm close with now that I wasn't as close with back then. It's also people I have no contact with now that I was close with back then. End of the day, it happened. You're here, I'm here. You can't go back as much as you might want to. And yeah. It was the biggest junction in modern history for the world, for individual countries, counties, states, territories, provinces, whatever you want to break it down to. That was the biggest turning point in modern human history. And in your life, it was probably the biggest turning point, or part of the biggest turning point, or the reason for the biggest turning point in your recent life. Appreciate that as you can. Appreciate that it happened. Appreciate that you made it through. Appreciate that if your family made it through, your family made it through. I'm sure bad shit happened. Hell, my parents split up right after that. You know, bad shit happened to me during that time too. It wasn't all great. I'm not going to complain about that like it was some horrible thing. Appreciate what you have now. You know, you're not going to get that peace back maybe ever again, but if you find it, appreciate that too. I'll leave it at that. Watch out Thursday and Friday for new videos. Hopefully at least one's coming out. I promise you that. And yeah, I'll see you guys then.